Hello everyone, welcome to our lecture video. In this video, we are going to talk about cash flow diagram. So under our chapter of time value of money, under our playlist of economics, we have already uploaded many videos such as time value of money, economic equivalence, and many other videos. And you can find the playlist to all these videos in the description box below. So first, let's talk about cash flow diagram. So let's talk about certain company. So cash flow diagram are really important to while solving our many engineering economics problems. So we need to understand cash flow diagram very essentially. So let's say we have a certain company and we have the for our time period 0, 1 and 2. Let's say for our time period 0 uh, we have firstly a cost of, let's say, $1,000. So we have spent $1,000 to buy a certain machine for the company. So let's say we have spent $1,000 to buy a certain machine at this is our initial year. And for ours in our second year and third year, let's say we generate a certain revenue of $100 and $200 and $300. While on the other hand, let's say every year we're uh, expending, let's say, around $50 $50 for our annual maintenance cost or whatever it is. We're having a certain cash outflow. So if I had to draw this in a cash flow diagram, so how will we draw this? So first we will be drawing two lines. One is our vertical and one is our horizontal line. So in our horizontal line, so if we have a cash inflow or we have a cash coming in, so this is our cash inflow. This is going to denote as our cash inflow. So basically in our cash flow diagram, cash inflow are treated as positive and our cash outflows these are our cash outflow. So as you can see here, we have certain cash flow. So if we were to denote this cash flow for certain machine, we are going to denote it as in our time 0. So we have a cash outflow. So we have a expenditure. So our cash outflow. This is our cash outflow over here. Outflow are basically our expenditure, they are our cost, they are our maintenance cost, etc. But our cash inflow simply means our profit or our revenue we generate. So let's so in our cash flow diagram, so in our time t equals to 0. So for our cash flow diagram, there are basically two types of cash flow diagram. They are revenue dominated. So they are, first is revenue dominated cash flow diagram. So revenue dominated cash flow diagram, and next is our cost dominated cash flow diagram. So we need to understand both of these topics clearly. Cost dominated cash flow diagram, so they have different rules in both of this diagram. So generally what we do in our revenue dominated cash flow diagram is, in our revenue dominated cash flow diagram, all the cash inflows are treated as positive, while our cash outflows are treated as negative. While in our cost unit is exactly the opposite. Cash inflow are treated as negative, while our cash outflows are taken as positive. So let me explain why this is taken as positive and as negative in this our example. So first we are going to draw for this part. Just look at this part. So as you can see here, firstly we are focusing on the revenue our machine is generating. So we are going to draw the cash flow, which will be drawing is going to be a revenue dominated cash flow diagram. Suppose at our time t equals to 0, we have spent $1,000 to buy a certain machine. So this is going to be my cash outflow. So I denoted my cash outflow in downward direction. Next I have my cash inflow at a time. So we have time 1, 2, 3. So I have a cash inflow of $100. So I'm going to denote it by upward direction. Next I have cash inflow of $200. These are my revenue which are generated every year. These are my revenue generated every year. So I'm going to treat them as positive. This is going to be my $1,000 is going to be my negative, is going to treat it as negative while solving any problems. So why we need cash flow diagram is, we are going to use cash flow diagrams to calculate our present worth. So while calculating our present worth, we are going to treat this $1,000 as negative, while all these $100 and $200 are going to be treated as positive. So basically we'll be converting this $100 in our present form by using this formula: p by f comma I comma n plus 200 p by f comma I comma n plus 300 p by f comma I comma n. So I'll be explaining this a little bit later on, what is this formula and how it has arrived. But before that, let me explain about cost dominated cash flow diagram. So just in this figure, we're going to have a certain change. So and now we are not going to focus on this part of our on our revenue part. Next, what we're going to focus is, we're going to focus on our cost part of our machine. So let's focus on our initial cost of $1,000, and in our year one we are going to explain we are going to spend $50 in our year two, $50 for our cost, or let's say maintenance of our same machine. So in that case, if we were to show this in our figure, so what we will be doing is, let me drop all this. So as we previously saw in our figure, it was dominate our cash flow diagram was usually dominated by our revenue. So it is hence called as revenue dominated cash flow diagram. So revenue, let me just draw that more one more time. So as you can see here, the cash inflows are much more dominated in our revenue dominated cash flow diagram. Therefore cash inflows are taken as positive, and the cash outflows, these are our cash outflows, they are simply taken as negative in the case of our revenue dominated cash flow diagram. But in case of our cost dominated cash flow diagram, so let me draw this now. So what happens in our revenue dominated cash flow diagram is, so we will be focusing more on our cash outflows. So in our, as you can see here, in our year one we are spending $50, we are spending $50 for our maintenance. Similarly in year 2 we are spending $50. Similarly in year 3 we are spending $50 for the maintenance of our device. So as you can see here, we just have all the cash outflows. We might have a certain cash inflow as well. So let's suppose we have a salvage value at our end year 3. Salvage value, yes, equals to $500. So if you don't know what does salvage value mean, salvage value basically means the the decreased cost of our machine when it is going to when it is at the end of its usable period. Suppose we have a certain machine, so at 1,000 we bought the machine with the cost of $1,000, but with the increase in year the price of machine is going to decrease until it finally reaches at $500. So salvage value basically means the resellable value of that machine, and sometimes the salvage value can be negative as well. It means we are spending money not to sell but to decompose or to get rid of that machine. So right now we have salvage value of $500. So in this case, this $500 is going to be treated as negative, and all these cash flow are going to be treated as positive. So in this case, the 1,000 won't be negative, so the 1,000 will be the present worth for this cash flow. While calculating this cash flow, we are going to treat this $1,000 as positive, and all this $50, so all these individual $50, they are going to be treated as positive as well. So let's just write it this way. So we'll be calculating our present worth in this way, while our salvage value of $500 is going to be treated as negative, minus 500 p by f comma I comma n. So we'll be focusing more clearly on our revenue dominated cash flow diagram with few examples to make you much more clear. So let me drop all this. So basically up to here you must have understood what cash flow diagrams are and what are the types of cash flow diagram. So we'll be understanding more about calculating the present worth and future worth with the help of our cash flow diagram. So firstly we'll be learning about our revenue dominated cash flow diagram. So firstly let's learn about our revenue dominated cash flow diagram. So basically the cash flow diagram where revenue are where we talk about revenue or about profit of our machine company etc. So so for our present worth, so suppose our certain cash flow diagram looks like this for our revenue dominated cash flow diagram. So we have our time period of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's say at time t equals to 0, we have an initial investment of P, and in time 1 we have a certain revenue R1, and we have certain R2, R3, and in time period 4 we have R4, and we have a salvage value of S as well. So this is our salvage value. Yes, so I've already explained what is salvage value. Salvage value basically means the final or the selling cost of this of our machine at our end period of time. Basically means the resellable value. So we have in this case, if we were to calculate our present worth, so what does our present worth mean? So present worth is not as PW. So what is our present worth? So let me explain our present worth as well. So in this time value, our present worth is going to be this simply. So all this cash flow is going to be converted into a single cash flow, which is our present worth. And present worth basically means the algebraical sum of all the cash flows, algebraical sum of all cash flows at time t equals to 0, which means at our present time. So we are going to find the equivalent values of all our cash flows. All these cash flows, we're going to find the equivalent values but at the present time, and we're going to add or subtract it. So in our, as I already explained before, in our revenue dominant cash flow diagram, our cash inflow are going to be treated as positive and cash outflow are going to be treated as negative. So we are going to add and subtract all those cash flows at time t equals to 0. So whenever you are performing any engineering economics problem, what you need to understand is we cannot add or subtract future values and present values. So I cannot add P and R1. I cannot add P and R1. Or in this case, I cannot subtract minus. So this is my cash outflow, so it's going to be minus P, and my revenue is cash inflow, it's going to be plus R1. But I cannot do this because minus P is at time t equals to 0, while my R1 is at time t equals to 0. So this is at future. So I need to convert this at time t equals to 0, which means I need to find the present value of this R1. So we need to find the present value of this R1. So we'll be so present worth is very important while comparing different alternatives in our engineering economics. So hopefully you have understood till over here. So let me just rub all this and let me write down the formula for present worth. And we have our future worth as well. Future worth is known as FW. So for this cash flow, present worth means finding all the present values at time t equals to 0, while our future worth means finding all the value of cash flows at our future time at time t equals to 4, and so at time t equals to 0. So if we find out all the value of this cash flow at time t equals to 0, which is at our present time, it is going to be known as present worth. While if we find the value of, if we add or subtract all the equivalent values of our cash flows at our required future time at which is let's say at time t equals to 4 years, it is going to be our future worth. So fully you have understood over here. If you have any queries, you can comment down below. So now, in order to find our present worth, so firstly let's begin with present worth, which means we are going to focus at our time t equals to 0. So as I have explained before, in our revenue dominated cash flow diagram, we are going to denote it as minus p. Since it's our cash outflow, it's going to be minus p. Now our revenue is plus R1. Our revenue, this is at our time t equals to 1, but since it's a cash inflow, we're going to treat it as positive, but this is at our future, so we need to convert it at time t equals to 0. So we are going to use our formula P by F comma I comma N. So what does this refer to? So this is known as our, so this is basically known as our single payment compound factor, but you need to focus much more on that. But what does this basically refer to? So this is basically a denotation, which means finding present value when our future value is given. So R1 is our future value, because since it's at our time t equals to 1, now we need to find our present value at time t equals to 0. As I've explained before, we cannot be performing algebraic sum or differences of present and future values. We need to convert, while calculating our future worth, we need to convert all the cash values at time t equals to 0 at our present time. So we need to find our present value but when our future value is given I comma n. So in our right now in our screen, you can see all those formula. I'll be mentioning them. You can take a screenshot of all these formula. These formulas are going to be very, very important throughout our playlist and throughout our engineering economics. So now let me rub this. Plus R1. Next we have R2 plus R2. Again we are going to use the formula P by F comma I comma N. Again move on, plus R3. again p by f comma I comma n, again plus r4 p by f comma I comma n. So I've already explained before our formula. Focus on this formula we have written over here. So we we know our future value equals to present value into 1 plus I by n into 2. So let's take n as 1, so it's going to be simply 1 plus I power t. So we can write this down as f by p comma I comma n, which means finding our future value when our present value is given. In that case our formula is 1 plus I raised to the power n, where our n means our time period t. So we just written n over here. So if we just, so this is our formula. We are just taking the p downward, f by p, and we are just writing down the other constants which we will be using in our formula. So this is a simple like a symbol, or just write like an abbreviation or of our formula, which means we are finding the p when f is given. So this means, but right now we need p. So right now we have been given we have been given f, and we need to find p. So let's just rearrange this formula. So in that case we are going to get p equals to f divided by 1 plus I comma n. So if p by f equals to I comma n, these are our constants involved in our we are going to use these terms, we get 1 divided by 1 plus I raised to. Now we have our formula p by f comma I comma n equals to 1 divided by 1 plus I raised to the power n. N means our number of years. So now let's focus on this formula. So firstly we have minus p. So minus p is going to be written as minus p plus r1 into, so for our r1 the number of years when, so why do we just draw one more figure. So I have r1 over here, set time t equals to 1. So we are going to change this future value at time t equals to 0. So we have a gapping of 1 years. So our value of n is going to be 1 for here. 1 divided by 1 plus I raised to the power 1 plus r2 into 1 divided by 1 plus I raised to the power 2. So hopefully you have understood why I have taken 2 over it, because we have 1 and 2. Now we have 2 years. Plus r3 into, so you can simply guess we are going to use 1 plus I raised to the power 3, and so on. It goes so on depending upon our year. So what we have basically done is we haven't changed p because it's already at our present time t equals to 0, and we have r1 we have multiplied it by 1 plus I raised to the power 1 in order to convert it into my present time, and so on for my in order to calculate my present worth. So in this same case, if I had to calculate my future worth, so what will I be doing? So in order to calculate my future worth, so let's say if I have to calculate my future worth at time t equals to 4, in that case this might be a little bit complex for you at first, but it's going to be really simple. So minus p is, so let me just begin. So if I have to calculate my future worth, I'll begin from the end. So at time t equals to 4, I have r4. So I don't need to change r4 because it's already at my future time. So I'm simply going to write it as r4 plus r3. So this time I need to find my future value when my present value is given. So f by p comma I comma n plus r2. So let me just rub this portion over here. Plus r2. Again finding the future value when my present value is given to me, which is my r2 plus r2 comma I comma n plus r1, again f by p comma I comma n plus not plus my now I finally move on to my p. I'm going to do my p as minus p, again f by p comma I comma n. So my formula for f by p is you can refer to the screenshot you have previously taken. If you refer that screenshot, you find the formula as r4 plus r3 into f by p into the formula is 1 plus I raised to the power n. 1 plus I raised to the power n. N means our number of years. So for our r3, converting it into time here, over here, as you can see here, the n is going to be just 1 year, plus r2 is going to be 1 plus I squared. Hopefully you're understanding here, because it's going to be 1, 2, and for our 1 it's going to be 3, and for our p it's going to be 4. So I'm just going to write it right for directly write for p minus p 1 plus I raised to the power 4. So this is how basically our revenue dominated cash flow diagram works. So fully have understood till over here. Now we'll be talking about cost dominated cash flow diagram. Cost dominated. So it is going to be the same. There are not going to be much changes. So let's talk about cost dominated cash flow diagram. Let's talk about our cost dominated cash flow diagram. So if we have completely understood revenue dominated cash flow diagram, cost dominated cash flow diagram is going to be really simple. So let me just draw the cash flow diagram. So in our cost flow diagram, so this is our P, initial investment, and we are going to have certain cost every year, which can be denoted as C1, C2, C1, C2, C3 respectively, C1, C2, C3 respectively, C4, and you are going to have a salvage value, yes, at the end of the time. So I'm just going to do this really quickly because I've already explained step by step. So in our cost dominated cash flow diagram, we're going to take our cash outflows as positive. So all our cash flow outflows are going to be treated as positive, while our cash inflow, we have one cash inflow salvage value which is going to be treated as negative. So let's calculate our present worth. So in order to calculate our present worth, so we need to convert all our cash flow at our present time. So we will have minus P plus C1 into finding the present value when our future value is given, comma I, comma n, plus again we are going to treat all our cash outflow as positive, plus C2, sorry, not minus P, it's going to be plus P, that's the difference, plus P, because this is my cash outflow. My P is my cash outflow, so I'm going to treat all my cash outflow as positive. P plus C1 plus C2, P by F, comma I, comma n. Again C3, everything is going to be positive up to C4. All the P by F, comma I, comma n. Now we have one cash inflow, which is my salvage value. So I'm going to treat the salvage value as negative, because this is my cost dominated cash flow diagram, and I'm going to treat this as negative. So in a similar way, you can find out your future worth as well. So you have your formula of P by F, just put in the value and you have your present worth. And we have our present worth, so we'll be doing one numerical as well to make it more clear. So one of the most important thing which you need to understand regarding present worth is, so I will explain basically, present worth basically means my present value, how much present value I have. So if present worth means basically the present value of present value of my instrument, or present value of my company. So I have a question over here. So if present worth of, I have a company A or alternative A, and I have a present worth of alternative B. So if what is better among both of these alternatives on the basis of present worth? So we need to choose. So what I'm basically saying is, let's say the present worth of A is $100 and the present worth of B is $200. So which one is better among both of these alternatives? It is going to be A or it is going to be B. So you can pause the video now and you can think about it, or you can comment down below the answer. So which present worth is going to be better? So the answer is, it depends on the cash flow. So if we are talking about revenue dominated cash flow diagram, in that case, more is the present worth, better it is, because more present worth in terms of revenue dominated cash flow diagram means more revenue generated. But in the terms of, let's say, cost dominated cash flow diagram, more present worth simply means more cost. So basically you can see from the name of the cash flow diagram, you are focusing on cost and you are focusing on revenue. So more present worth means more revenue, more present worth in terms of cost dominated cash flow diagram means more cost. So in this case we'll be focusing on the alternative which has less present worth, and the same applies for the future worth as well. So let's focus on now let's focus on a numerical example to understand all of these concepts more clearly. So now let's move on to our numerical example. Suppose we have initial cost P equals to RS, let's say 12 lakhs. Yeah, this is our initial cost, and we have annual revenue. We have our annual revenue A as let's say rs 4 lakhs. We have our interest rate I equals to 20%, and this interest rate is compounded annually, which means our n equals to 1 for compounded annually for the lifetime of this technology, which is as 10 years. Here I'm not writing full, so it basically means we have compounded annually, and we need to find the present worth for this interest rate for this period of time. So we need to find our present worth. So as you can see here, we are focusing on our revenue, so it's going to be our revenue dominated cash flow diagram. So you need to understand what type of cash flow diagram we are focusing on. That's going to be our first and foremost step for getting our present worth. Is it the cost dominated cash flow diagram or revenue dominated cash flow diagram? So as you can clearly see, we are drawing a revenue dominated cash flow diagram. So we have an annual revenue A. So if we were to draw the cash flow diagram, it would look something like this. So this is my time t equals to 0, so we have our time period of 10 years. So we need to move up to 10 years. So 1 2 3 4, so let me just draw 10. So we have initial cost P equals to this is my 12 lakhs, and I have my annual revenue. Annual revenue means my profit generated every year. So every year I'll be generating profit of 4 lakhs, and this goes up to 10 years. 4 lakhs it's generated per year. So I have my interest I equals to 20%. So I need to find my present worth in this case. So in order to find the present worth, so since this is a revenue dominated cash flow diagram, I am going to denote my cash outflow as negative. So this minus 12 lakh is going to be negative, minus 12 lakhs. Now all other my cash flow are going to be treated as positive. So let me just write this down in this way. So let me just write over here. Let me just write down my present worth. Let me just tell you minus 4 lakh plus what I can do is 4 lakh into P by F divided by I comma n, which means I will explain before finding my present value when my future value is given. My 4 lakh is my future value. I need to convert that future value in my time t I equals to 0 plus again another 4 lakh into P by F I by comma n, and you can repeat this up to 10. So what happens is minus 12 lakh plus 4 lakh into my formula is for P by F comma I comma, and it is going to be 1 divided by 1 plus I 1 plus I raised to the power n. So I'm going to have 1 again 4 lakh into 1 divided by 1 plus I square. So in place of I'm going to put 0.2 plus 4 lakh into 1 divided by 1 plus I cube, and we need to repeat this until we reach up to 4 lakh into 1 divided by 1 plus I raised to the power 10. So you can do like this as well, but as you can see here, we have equal amounts. So our revenue is denoted as A. This is going to be my equal amount for 10 years. Equal amount. So what we can do is I can convert all of this single-handedly. So let me write down the formula for that. So that is quite important. So if you check in the screenshot which I told you to click before, we have a different formula over there. So what we can do simply over here is minus 4 lakh minus 12 lakhs plus 4 lakhs into finding the present value when our amount A is given. Since we have our equal amount, which is also known as our annuity, which we'll learn in our future video. Annuity means our equal payments given or taken. So we have equal amounts of 4 lakhs generated every year up to 10 years. So this is denoted as our A. We have been given A in the question, so we need to find the present value of this amount. A. So we are finding the present value of this amount A. So P is in up. This A is given, so we are going to write it down, and this is unknown, so we are writing it upward. So minus 12 lakhs plus 4 lakh into, so if you check the formula for this, we have the formula of P by A, this as 1 plus I raised to the power 1 minus 1 divided by I 1 plus I raised to the power n. So simply let me write down over 1 plus my value of I is 0.2 raised to the power n, my n is 10, minus 1 divided by I is 0.2 into 1 plus 0.2 raised to the power 10. So in this case I am going to get my present worth as minus 12 lakhs plus 4 lakhs into, on solving this I am going to get my value of 4.1925. So let me write down directly. I am going to get my present worth at 20% interest rate for this revenue dominated cash flow diagram as RS 47700. So as you can see here, in this way we can find your present worth for your revenue dominated cash flow diagram. So now let's move on to our next example of cost dominated cash flow diagram. So if you were doing for a cost dominated cash flow diagram, what will be? So I'll be just doing some few changes. So I have my initial cost P equals to P, it will be equal to 4,50,000. So my initial cost is 4,50,000, and I'm not going to have annual revenue. For my cost dominated cash flow diagram, it is going to be annual operation and maintenance cost. So now for our revenue, now for our cost dominated cash flow diagram, I have my question as our initial cost P is 4,50,000. I have my annual operation and maintenance cost A equals to 27,000. This is my focus point. So as you can see, in the previous question I had my annual revenue, but right now I have my annual operation and maintenance cost. I have my annual cost. This is going to be my definitely going to be my cost dominated cash flow diagram. I have life n equals 50 years and I have interest rate 15%. So if I were to draw the cash flow diagram, it is going to be like this. Time t equals to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This goes up to 15. So initially I have my P as this is going to be my 4.5 lakhs, and every year from 1 till 15 I have to pay my maintenance cost for this machine as 27,000, and I have my interest rate as 15%. So now in this case I have to find my present worth. So how I'm going to find my present worth? So as you can clearly see, this is my cost dominated cash flow diagram, and in my cost dominated cash flow diagram I'm going to treat my cash outflows as positive. So it's going to be P plus A. A is my annual cost, so I need to convert this A into my present value, P by A I comma n. So I will explain this previously. So my P is 4,50,000 plus my A is given as 27,000, and my formula of P by A is 1 plus I is 0.15 raised to the power n is 15 minus 1 divided by I is 0.15 into 1 plus I 0.15 raised to the power 15. So if you are going to solve this, so I'm going to write it down directly. In that case you are going to get your present worth as RS 607,879.80. So hopefully you have understood over here between difference between two cash flow and how we can find your present worth and future worth. So if in this case if I were to find my future worth, so how would I find? So let me just write down as that as well. My future worth will be equal to P. So I need to convert my P into future. So F by P comma I comma n. In that case my n will be 15 plus again A. So I need to find my future worth of A. So F by A comma I comma n. So easily you can find this. You can put down the formulas and calculate the values. So I'm not be doing this, but what I'll be doing is I'll be asking you a question over here. So let's say at the end of 15 we have a salvage value yes of let's say 1 lakhs. So in that case what is going to be your present worth PW? So do comment down in the comment what will be your present worth when you have a salvage value of 1 lakh. So I'll be answering down over there whether you have found out the correct answer or not. Hopefully you have understood about cash flow diagram, present worth and future worth. If you still have any queries, you can comment down below. I'll answer you over there. And if you like our content, do subscribe channel and like our video and share our videos. Thank you.